Welcome to Politically Unstable with Charles Hurt, Washington Times opinion editor. I'm your host, Andy Parks, and I'd like to remind you that you qualify for a 50% discount on an annual digital subscription to the Washington Times simply by going to washingtontimes.com/Andy. That's washingtontimes.com/ANDY. And now, ladies and gentlemen, Washington Times opinion editor Charles Hurt. Hello, Charlie.
Hey, Andy. How you doing?
Doing just fine, thanks. 100 days in, Biden needs to retire. That's the title of your column. And you know it's bad when Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, I like to call her that. Ocasio-Cortez.
How is that not? I mean, that should have stuck from day one. That's really good. Did you just come up with that, or had you been holding out on
I've been holding out on you.
Stolen that.
Yeah. Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez is praising his work. She said he's exceeding expectations. How bad is that for the country?
Yeah, no kidding. I mean, when you have impressed Ocasio-Cortez with your left-wing lunacy, then you have really jumped the shark. You have really, really done it at that point. For me, sort of the moment, the great picture of the Biden administration thus far was the picture from last week or maybe earlier this week. Biden doing a Zoom with world leaders around the world, and he's wearing a mask on his Zoom call. I mean, I don't know whether. I mean, it's funny. It's hilarious. It's hysterical. It's a perfect encapsulation of this moment that we find ourselves in. There is no science whatsoever. I mean, granted, I will be clear. The internet is a very dangerous place. And you have to be very careful it's also a very dirty place. I mean, think of all the bad things that you can catch by going on the internet. But I'm just thinking the Chinese virus is not one of the things you're going to, or at least not the one that we're talking about right now, is not the virus that you're going to catch from being on the internet. Maybe he thought that he was worried it was going to infect his computer or, spamware or something like that. It's all very good, especially when you become completely detached from reality, detached from science, detached from like normal people walking around. Then obviously you're going to put a mask on to go on the computer. I think that antivirusware, that's not what we're thinking about when you think about needing to protect your computer from viruses.
Well, let's take a look at his 100 days, okay? Border crisis.
Oh, Lord.
Yes. American energy independence down the toilet. Race conspiracy theories about the police. Climate change nonsense, packing the Supreme Court. I mean, how long does this list go?
I don't know, but every one of them, Ocasio-Cortez was like in the wings, apparently just applauding because this guy we never could have dreamed. And what's weird is, this is a guy that's been in Washington for 50 years. When he goes out there and he talks about the Derek Chauvin trial, we got the verdict out of that. I pray to dear God that the jury made their decision based on evidence and wisdom, and I trust that. And if they do, then that's the way our system works. I pray that they didn't decide based on external concerns, such as what the president said and what others said about basically warning that there would be riots and people would further murder and mayhem if the jury ruled the wrong way. I pray that they didn't allow that into the thought process. At this point, we simply don't know. But one thing that we can say, without any doubt whatsoever, is nobody ever proved that there was any racial component to what happened to George Floyd. What happened to George Floyd was the result of, according to the jury, a cop who made bad decisions and performed badly. But at no point did anyone present any evidence that there was anything racial about it.
Yeah.
But, of course, President Biden goes there, and he talks about institutional racism, and he talks about systemic racism, which, of course, Ocasio-Cortez, she's cheering all of this nonsense. But nobody is even trying to put forth actual evidence that that's the case. Obviously, there are these really tragic cases involving people who get hurt or die in police custody. And literally, this is a 100% issue. Everyone agrees that they don't want to see people dying or getting hurt in police custody. But the problem is, as soon as you inject race into it, it becomes this whole different thing. But here's my rather long-winded point here, is just this one thing. If if America is systemically, inherently racist, then Joe Biden is inherently, systemically racist.
Yes.
There is nobody in all of America who is more the face of institutional America than Joe Biden, who has been part of the problem for 50 years. He was in the White House as vice president for 8 years. If this is a stunning admission by Joe Biden that Joe Biden thinks Joe Biden is a bigot, as well as all these other Americans who have supported Joe Biden over the years and reelected him over the years. And of course, mind you, none of us hung out with a Grand Kleagle in the KKK. None of us ever did that. This guy did. This guy boasted about how he could work with all of these racists and stuff like that. None of us have done that. None of us. I mean, and so I just find it so amazing that we find ourselves in this moment where we have a president who is saying all of this about himself, and then yet still it's like somehow we're the ones to blame. And I'm just like scratching my head. And then, of course, Ocasio-Cortez. I really love that.
Yeah.
How did you not tell me about Ocasio-Cortez before now? Because I am nothing if not a thief. And so I promise you,
It'll be in a column.
I will never call her anything else but Ocasio-Cortez.
Yeah, you can't help it sometimes. You look at it and go, does that say Ocasio? Yes, it does. In my mind.
Well, I don't know if her name does, but whatever the hell follows after that's in the quotation marks, that's Ocasio.
Yeah. All right. So now, according to the Democrats, the America we live in today is awful and it has to be changed. But they're the ones that created it. If you look back in history, as you just mentioned, I mean, the whole racism thing. He and his buddy, KKK leader Robert Byrd. I mean, you can go down a list a mile long. These are the people responsible for what they claim is awful in this country today.
Yeah, and of course, obviously, we don't actually believe that. We don't actually believe that any of these cops are acting in this manner. I'm sure you could find a case where there is some racist cop that did something like this, and that cop should be dealt with ferocity. The same ferocity that you deal with any bad cop. But the idea that these people, it's all about political power. They don't actually care. This whole defund police, who does that hurt? That doesn't hurt anybody but the people that they claim to want to help, which is often minorities who live in places where Minneapolis or wherever, where these clowns want to defund the police. And, you take the case with that young girl where that hero cop had to unholster his gun and shoot a young girl who was attempting to murder another young girl. If this were like in a cartoon, the cop would be like Superman or Wonder Woman with a cape, would be flying in. It would be this great hero who saved the life of an innocent person. Unfortunately, the only way to save that innocent person was to shoot and unfortunately kill a bad person, young person, who was attempting to murder another person. But somehow or another, it gets racialized because it's all about political power. It's so tragic, and it only hurts the people that these clown politicians claim to care most about.
Yeah, speaking of clowns, LeBron James, what an idiot.
And it's so too bad because, you have these figures like, a guy like him, and I think about the other great, sports greats throughout time who have been, Michael Jordan or somebody like that who is, I don't even watch basketball really.
Yeah.
It's not my sport, but watching a guy like that play and watching a guy like that lead on the court, when those stories cross over into, common news, it's really interesting, and you love these people, and they're heroic, and they're brilliant geniuses at what they do. And then they decide to open their mouths and get involved in politics.
I know.
It's
stupid.
Just so insane.
Yeah.
And you're like, what? Why not? Why can't you just be great at what you're great at and stick to that?
Yep.
Because you're amazing at what you do. Why do you have to reveal your ignorance, reveal your prejudice, your rank prejudice, by wandering into this stuff because you want to, I don't know, you want to feel good or you want to look cool for a different set of people or something? It's insane.
Yeah. I want to touch on a couple other things before I let you run today. John Kerry, the new leaky Leahy, he gives Iran Israeli intelligence information. Pompeo this morning evidently said, here I'm briefing Trump and he's briefing the Iranians.
Yeah, it's treason. He committed treason.
Yes, of course.
He should be dealt with accordingly. And by the way, the left loves it when we sit around talking about their hypocrisy. Because when we talk about their hypocrisy, and a perfect example is, the idea that Michael Flynn, President Trump's incoming national security advisor, was run out of town on a rail, persecuted, prosecuted, life destroyed, is left financially destitute for having conversations, part of an incoming administration, having conversations with foreign adversaries at a time when they were setting up the government to deal with the new administration. The idea that is somehow evil and results in all that befell him versus what John Kerry did every day, flouted the rules about all of this stuff and colluded with a profound enemy. America and Russia were at odds for 40 years. We had enough missiles pointed at one another to annihilate the Earth 7 times over for 40 years. And we managed to get out of that with, obviously horrible cost to many, many people, but we managed to get out of that without launching a single missile at one another. Can you imagine if Iran had 1,000 nuclear warheads pointed at America or Israel?
Yeah.
Do you have any doubt they wouldn't press the button?
No.
And so, the left exposes themselves as being the hypocrites that they are and the double standards and all that kind of stuff. They love it when we talk about that because we're not talking about, wait a minute. John Kerry is in bed with the largest state sponsor of terrorism on the planet.
Yeah.
Wait a minute. Hold on. Wait, that's the newsflash. The newsflash is that Barack Obama gave hundreds of millions of dollars in cash on pallets under the darkness of night to a theocracy in Iran that despises everything civilized people stand for. And that money that Barack Obama and John Kerry and Joe Biden gave the Iranians was used to build bombs that killed U.S. servicemen, that was used to kill innocent people. They gave that money to terrorists that killed innocent people in this world. And again, we're talking about the hypocrisy, and there is hypocrisy. But again, the newsflash is what we have known all along, which is, oh my gosh, these people are actually in bed with terrorists. This is just stunning. And I guarantee you this, Andy, whatever it is that those people who voted for Joe Biden in the 2020 election, they didn't vote for him to go get back into bed with Iran. But that's the message. Yet again, they're so dumb, they're so evil, they're so dishonest, they're so stupid. That's the message they want to take from voters. Oh, yeah, we're going to go get back into bed with Iran. What is going on here? It's crazy.
It is crazy. 100 days in, Biden needs to retire. That's the title of Charlie's latest column. Check it out at WashingtonTimes.com. Charlie, good to talk to you, my friend. Take care. We'll do it again.
Always fun to talk to you, buddy.
Thanks for listening to Politically Unstable with Charlie Hurt. As I mentioned, you can read all of Charlie's columns at WashingtonTimes.com. While you're there, check out a great selection of podcasts. I'm Andy Parks. Have a great day.